Good evening to everybody. My name is Georgio. I'm a Microsoft consultant, user experience consultant in Microsoft UK. What I do in my job, I work or play with Silverlight, WPF, and with all the .NET framework technologies. Today I'm going to talk about RIA, about WPF, Silverlight, and Silverlight for mobile. So it's a huge, it's a really huge field, and there are a lot of things to say here. I'm not going to say everything. I'm not going to go too deep into the code. I'm just going to, my goal here is to give you an overview of what the RIA applications are and how you can start building something. So let's start here from the agenda. RIA, demo, WPF, demo, Silverlight for mobile, demo, Q&A, no, not demo. But I want to show you demo. So I apologize if I don't have a lot of slides, but I prefer to show you more demo rather than show you PowerPoint. First question, obvious. What is a rich internet application? Well, this is the definition from Wikipedia. So it's a mix of a web application and a desktop application. It's pretty interesting, but can you feel a RIA from this definition? Can you feel like the future from this definition? When I read this sentence, which is from Wikipedia, I get bored from rich internet application. It doesn't seem to be really interesting. So what I thought it would be more interesting for you today is to have a look at the future. So how Microsoft see the future of the application, what Microsoft think about rich internet application. And to let you understand this, I want to show you a quick video. In Microsoft, we have a group which is called Innovation Group, Microsoft Innovation Group, which try to think about scenario of 5 to 10 years in the future. And this is one of the scenarios that they build. Okay, so follow my arrow now. So what do you think of this? Is it cool?
Super, but what was the story?
It's another question. What do you think? Okay, this is my definition, my short definition, 4-minute definition for what is a RIA, a rich internet application. This is what a RIA is going to look like in the future. So I think I gave you a better idea of what a RIA is. So how can we start building today this RIA? What Microsoft gives you to start building rich internet application? Well, you may already know that we have two big areas, the web area and the desktop area. When we talk about web, we have ASP.NET. When we talk about desktop, we have all the Office suite and WPF. What's new here is another area, which is the media and the rich internet application, which is trying to enter in the market with all the Silverlight technologies. And the whole group can be fit inside the .NET Framework strategy. At this point, I want to ask you, how many developers are there in this room? How many designers? Well, okay, we call them designer, like kind of developer plus designer. How many others?
Others.
Okay. Great, perfect. So to give you a better idea of how many developers and designers and others are there in the world, we can see that like most of the people working in this field are developers or designers. And quite a few people are working in the media field. It's really interesting to see that we probably don't have designer in the desktop area, at least. How many designers design WPF application here? One. Okay, you might be the only one in this country. So if it's right for you, I'm going to add a one with your name there. Where is the question? Sorry?
Where are the others?
In Microsoft. Well, no, the user experience is kind of a new group of people. So even in Microsoft, we don't have a lot of user experience experts so far. But this group is increasing, and all the Silverlight technology are emerging, and there is the request from the market to build new Silverlight application, to build new rich internet application. And this is where the market is going to go in the next years. How can we go there? I have to show you this slide, sorry. So you probably already know Visual Studio 2008, the Splendidus tool. You can use the professional, the architecture suite, plus all the tools for building Silverlight application. From the other side, the new tool for building the user experience, so to design the interface, is all the expression suite. So Blend, Design, Web, etc. And one of the newest tools is going to be the Deep Zoom Composer. OK, I talked too much. Now, let's start from the demo about WPF. WPF technology to build desktop application. You may already know something about WPF, so I'm going to cover only the news about WPF, which are from the Service Pack 1 for the .NET Framework 3.5. So what are the news with this service Pack? The keyword is performance improvement. We improve really a lot the performance. So performance on animations, on data binding, on the window layering, on the time that the application needs to start up. And we are giving now a better support for the GPU acceleration, and solving some kind of issue with the storyboard acceleration and deceleration ratio. We can increase the battery life of your laptop. Interesting. Let's see some demo for this. So I'm going to show you some demo that has been shown at Mix 08 in Las Vegas this year. The first demo, not sure if you've already seen this. It's kind of a 3D space. So as soon as I move the mouse here, I can animate this 3D space. And when I click, like this, there is a cover effect. And you can see that the performance are pretty good. This application has been developed with the WPF using the Service Pack 1. And you can see that the performance are really good. But is this a 3D space? And that's it. No, it's a text box. So I can write here. Is it just a text box? Well, let me try to write here, for example, something wrong. You still have correction. So right-click, doing. So this gives you just an idea of what you can do now with the 3D stuff. This is like a text box projected in a 3D space. And all these difficult tasks is done from the framework, so you don't need to care about it. And the performance, again, are really, really good. You can see that I really can touch everywhere, discover, and it's pretty performing. Next demo, and this is even better. We still have a plane in a 3D, so I can still do some kind of 3D animation here. And I can project some content inside this plane. So let's start from an image. I just choose a random image. So this is your image. And I might ask you then in the coffee break why this Lego characters. And what we can do now is adding effects. By effects, I mean DirectX effect. You can precompile DirectX effect and then, how can I say, pushing this effect inside the framework. So for example, I can have a magnifier, and I can still touch, and I can still do my animation here. Or you can invert the color, or you can have both. Or eventually, you can choose, for example, to zwirl, which is like a kind of strange animation on the picture. And a lot of other things, for example, the color alpha key, etc. We can do even more. Let's put a video here. And let me open the task manager. If you try to do this, if you ever try to do something like this before, you will get like a 90% of CPU usage. Okay. You can imagine the audio here. Now the CPU is just like 30% because I have other processes on this machine. And on this video, you can still apply the same effect. Or eventually, for example, you can really build any effect with DirectX and put this effect inside the framework. And OK, in this demo, they build these effects, which are pretty interesting. And you have the magnify, etc. And this is all live, and this is really performing. There is no trick. You can do this by yourself today. All right. Next demo, which is going to be easier, just to show you some code. But since most of you are developers, you should not have any problem. What I've written here is really an easy demo to show you how to add effects to your application. In this case, for example, I have a stack panel. From the code, I'm populating the stack panel, adding images inside this folder. And what I added here is an effect. This effect is not a bitmap effect. If you use the bitmap effect in the previous version of the WPF, you may know that they are really, how can I say, resource consuming because they didn't have hardware acceleration. This kind of effects instead is hardware accelerated. So the GPU is processing this effect, which makes the application much more smoother. And the effect that I'm using here is blur effect, which has an interesting property, which is called radius. And in the code behind, what I'm doing is animating the radius property. So, for example, here you can see an animation on my blur effect.radius property. Hope you can read the code eventually. So I'm just animating from 0 to 20, I think, the blur effect. And the final result is going to be this. So I have my stack panel. All the images loaded inside the stack panel. And as soon as I change the position, I will have the blur effect. Then the position will update to show the current image. And I can play with this as I want. And the performance are really, really good, considering that I'm using like maybe more than 100 pictures here. And how many lines of code I've written? 1 for the animation. The rest is just for loading the content. And this is everything I want to say you today about WPF. Next one, Silverlight. You already know, you already seen this definition before, right?
Yep.
You may say yes.
Yep.
No, please say yes. Yes. Great. So I don't have to repeat this slide. Plugin for the browser is brilliant, and I'm sure you already seen a lot of Silverlight application. What you may probably don't know is that Silverlight today is, well, the version 1 of Silverlight is running on Linux through Monolith. It's called Monolith. So the project Mono did a porting of Silverlight for Linux as well, and they're now working with the help and the support of Microsoft on the next version of converting the Silverlight version 2 for Linux. And all the other operating systems are Windows, Mac, etc. What's new with the new beta 2 of Silverlight? As you know, last week we released the beta 2 of the Silverlight version 2. And the beta 2 brings new control, brings new feature. This is just a list of some of the new features that has been added. As I said, I might show you lot of slides here to explain each one of these features. I thought that it was more interesting to just look at the code. So let's start from Deep Zoom. Deep Zoom is the technology to bring together a lot of picture and create like a mosaic of picture, and then being able to zoom in, zoom out in your composition. So I'm using the Deep Zoom Composer, which is the tool to create this kind of composition. I'm creating just an empty project, adding one picture. And again, you might recognize this. Okay, have you already seen Deep Zoom before? Yes. Okay, what's new in the new version of Deep Zoom is this panel, which is the tag, where you can set a tag for this picture, which is like any information you want, for example, Star Trek. And then you have a better support for organizing the picture inside your composition, etc. When I go to export, I'm just going to give a name. I want to export to JPEG with the maximum quality. Click on export. And it's going to create a Silverlight project for me, the Deep Zoom Composer. And if I browse this solution, Deep Zoom project, and if I try to run this solution, what do you think is going to happen if I press F5 now? You didn't use it. You're going to have an error. It's just this is not the final tool. The Deep Zoom Composer you can download today is not going to be the final Deep Zoom Composer. It's just a beta version. You get an error here because you need to start. You need to set up a starting project, the web project, and you need to specify to start from the HTML page. Okay, if I press F5 now, and I enable the debug, this time it's going to run. And I'm going to have my Deep Zoom composition with the zoom in, out, and all the mouse handling already ready. And I haven't written any line of code, and I've done this in 10 seconds, which is pretty interesting. What's new in Deep Zoom? A couple of things. The first one, if we look at how we bind the source of the Deep Zoom composition. Okay, let me close this. We now have a class source equal new Deep Zoom image tile source, which is the class given by the framework, where you can specify your directory with all the images. But there is another scenario where you might have like 10,000 pictures, and you might have the definition of this picture inside the database or in your solution. In this case, if you go to browse to the definition, you will see that you have an abstract class multi-scale tile source, and you can eventually derive from this class and build your own provider for Deep Zoom. I don't have a sample ready now, but I'm going to publish something now, or maybe Kirupa, which is the person who is building this tool, is going to publish a sample on his blog. Another interesting thing about Deep Zoom, and this is pretty interesting in terms of compatibility and scalability, is if we look at what the Deep Zoom Composer generated, we can see that we have XML file. In the previous version, the Deep Zoom Composer was building bin file, encoding in some strange format, This time instead, we only have pictures, so JPEG or PNG, plus XML. So if we look inside this XML, for example, we can see that this XML contains the definition for your composition. And eventually, you might choose to build this, this collection using your own tool, your own provider. This is really customable and is more extensible. And if I open a metadata, for example, I'm going to see the tag that I inserted with the composer. OK, and that's it for Deep Zoom. Close this. I have another demo of Deep Zoom. Oops. And you can download this demo from the Kirupa blog. I'm going to give you all the links at the end. This time, I have more picture inside my composition. And I have a way to browse the tag that I inserted by the composer. How can I do this? I'm just reading the XML file using link. You can see the code by yourself at home. I don't want to spend too much time now on this code. But what you see here is a list of all the tags on the images. So for example, I want to select the MS UK tab, and you're going to see me, Paolo, Sergei, etc. Or you might want to choose your tag, and you're going to have Star Trek and your logo. And this is just an easy application to use the tag metadata plus all your pictures. OK, end of this Zoom story. Next story is going to be about building servlet application in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So who says start and takes the time? Did you say start? Start. OK. No, I'm going to do something really easy. Create a project, create like a data layer, add in a web service, and binding the web service to an item controls. So I create a new project. I select servlet application. Just let the default name. I create a website to run my servlet application. First thing I want to do is creating the data layer. Something really easy. I'm going to add a link to SQL class to my project. So from the ASP.NET website, add new item, and then I select link to SQL, which is here. Perfect. Yes. And inside this class, I want to drag and drop my database definition. So I already have a database ready here. It's called Music Library. It has some table. It's just an easy database with some table and some reference. So if I expand the tables, I'm going to drag this inside my link to SQL file. And this is going to create for me all the classing, all the mapping with the database inside the ASP.NET application. And this itself is pretty interesting. OK, I apologize if you can maybe. OK. It's not possible to read the content of these classes, but it's just an easy database definition. Something important here. Because we're going to expose this data layer through a web service, we need to specify on the data layer that this has to be serialized. So in the property, you see a property called serialization mode. You have to set this to unidirectional. And I can close this. And I already have my data layer ready. Next step, I want to expose all the data from the database through a web service, which will then be consumed from my servlet application. So I create a web service. Again, on the website, add new item. This time, you have a new item here, which is called servlet-enabled WCF service. Why is not just the normal WCF service? Because Servlet at the moment can use only basic HTTP binding on the web service. So when you choose the template, if you go to the web config, you can see that the binding is set to basic HTTP binding. So you don't have security. You don't have all of the future. It's just going to be a web service, easy web service for the moment. Inside my web service, I'm going to add a method. So which returns, for example, all the artists. So it's going to return our enumerable of artists. And again, the class artist comes from the data layer, so it's been created from link queue. Get artist. Then let me add the link namespace, so system.data.link. And here I can use link to query the database. So I need to create my context first of all. So the name of the class was DB layer data context, and I have the context. From the context, I can take all the artists equals from artist in db.artist, select all the artists. And this is going to do a query on my database to select all the artists from the database. And again, this is the new link feature. Well, new, it's link. So you can use link with Civlet as well. Last thing, I need to return my array. So return artist. OK, my method is ready. I just need to sign it with this attribute operation contract. And if I compile here, my backend application is ready. I've done a data layer and a web service layer. I can now move inside the Civlet application. So the Civlet application is going to run inside your browser. From your browser, you will call the web service. How can you call it? You need to have a reference to the web service. So in the Civlet project, right-click, add service reference. And if I click here on Discover, it will find for me, it will recognize that I've just created a web service in the other project. And I just need to click here, OK. And now it's going to run the web service and adding a reference to the project, to the web service, and adding all the stuff, all the classes and references that I need. Next step, inside the page, as soon as the page loads, I need to call the web service. So I'm going to add here an event handler. I create an object for my web service, client. And from here, I can see the method that I just created, getArtist. I have a postfix, which is async, because all the data is retrieved asynchronously. So I need to, first of all, add an handler to the completion of this operation. And then I can call my web service method. So I'm just calling the getArtist, the method that I just created. In this callback, what I receive is, where is it? GetArtist completed event args E. If I go inside that E, I will see results. And I want to point you here to OK. Do you see? Can you see this comment here? It's saying eResult is an observable collection of type artist. And this is why it's serializing the data layer and is communicating the structure of your data layer to the Civlet application. So from here, what you have is a typed collection. So you can still work with the same object that you created in the service layer. And I just think this is brilliant. So I have my result here. What I'm missing is a control to put these results in. So inside my page, I have a grid. And I'm going to add an items control, which is items control. I'm going to give a name to this item control. So let's call it items. And I need to specify the template for each item. So there is a property called itemscontrols.item template, which accepts data template object. And inside my data template, I can write any code, I can insert any control that I want. In this case, I just want something easy. So let's create, for example, a text box. And I want to bind the text property of the text box to the default binding. So binding. I have my items here, compile. Last step, inside my get artist completed, I just need to call my items and set the item source to the result of the web service. Stop at the time. How much was it?
8 minutes, 12 seconds.
Okay, now let's do it again. Oh. Okay, I'm missing only one thing, run. Okay, so in 8 minutes, I created a data layer, web service, and a servlet application, which is binded to the web service. What you see here is just the toString, what the toString of the object artist is returning. If I want to, for example, I can tell you that the artist object has a property called name. So if instead of having the default binding here, I want to display the name, I can just write here name, and I'm going to have a list of names. Pretty easy.
But it looks like a regular web application to me, right?
Because I'm using only a text box. And this is where expression blend come. Well, I'm not going to build the application that you've seen in the video of the healthcare of the future, not in 5 minutes. I apologize. I already tried to do that demo, but not in 5 minutes. What you can do from here is opening blend. So, for example, if I go here and I open the same solution using blend, and if I go inside my page file, I will see my items. Inside the items, I have my item template, and you can modify from here your template. So at the moment, there is only a text box. For example, let's put the text box inside a grid. And okay, so this is your text box. And let's add a button, for example. And you can customize your template for the data. And if I go back to Visual Studio and update the page, you will see that the template is going to change. And here you can really build, I'm not sure what is going to appear now, but the concept is that using Blend, you can really customize your application and build your interface. Yeah, this is really easy, but again, in less than 10 minutes, this is all I can show you. All right. Any questions so far?
Still not, obviously it seems very good at reading data, but have you got like a structured or a neat way of doing standard CRUD operations writing this data back?
Not in this presentation. The topic was RIA. If you want something more complex, I can point you to some resource later, all right? Yes?
With the same example, if you add another page,
Yes.
for another example page, how do you change the, your HTML page to point that I want to start the other page rather than this page?
You mean?
So if you create, let's say, page2.xml example, and then how do you say that the starting page needs to be done?
Okay, inside the app file, if you go in the code behind, there is the application startup, and this is where you are defining your initial point. So page is the name of this page. If you have another page, you will just give the new name. We can test it later.
Sure.
Okay. Now, there is another really nice new feature in the beta 2, which is the ability to animate the points. You can have points animation, and I really think this is brilliant. So let me create, for example, a path. Okay, I'm going to be really quick. Voila. And then I need to choose a background color for this path. I want a gradient with this. And I want it to start from the green, for example. Want it to go to the red. And last thing is change this There is no reference in this. There is no reference here. Okay, but this is not part of the demo. What the demo is, by the way, we won yesterday. What I really wanted to show is how can I create a storyboard on this path. So story animate, for example. Or sorry, before creating the storyboard. If I show the example here, this is the definition of the path. So data equals these numbers, which are not really easy to read or modify. So if I create a storyboard instead, story animate, I can create animation on each single point. So if I take my points here on this path, I can do something like this, for example, just to make my flag bigger. And each point is going to animate to its destination. And if we have a look at the XAML code, we can see how the long data property has been split inside line segment, which is much more clean and easy to modify and to work with. And I think this is a really nice feature. From the other side, you have the support from Blend for the point animation using keyframes or point animation. And this is another one of the new feature of the beta 2 of Silverlight. All right. Then you asked me for cool interface. Because I didn't have time, I'm going to show you an application that Microsoft UK MCS has built. So my colleagues, Martin, Sergey, has been this demonstrator. Have you already seen it? No. OK, it's a demonstrator for NHS, for the healthcare system. I'm just going to go through it really quickly, but it's just to give you an idea of what you can build using Silverlight. So I'm now loading. This demonstrator is public, so you can eventually browse it at home. And again, I'm going to give you all the reference to this application later. OK, this is a Silverlight application. So for example, this is where you can see all the doctors working in the hospital and other information about patient. And you have like drag and drop capabilities. You can expand an item and collapse the other. Or you can eventually, for example, drag and drop here the items. It's pretty fancy. It has quite a lot of feature. And then eventually you can search for a patient, for example, Bruce or John. And you can change the level of detail. You can really do whatever you want. This is such a powerful application. Next scenario, for example, is the primary care scenario. So this is the application that the doctor is going to see. Yes. No, it's the same. OK, it's correct. This time, I have the record, for example, of my patients. For example, this is a chart control, or where I can change, for example, the ratio. You can really play with this application, but it's just to give you a better idea of what you can really build with Silverlight and what are the best practices. Inside this website, MSQ, you can browse this application, and you will find a lot of guidelines in order to build application like this. And in the future, I think that some of the source code of this application is going to be published in like little snippets. OK, now because I don't have time, I need to roll back to my presentation. Let me close some window here, which is not needed. And if we go back to the, OK, you've seen this. And there are a lot of other interesting features in Silverlight, for example, the support for the data services, the UI automation and accessibility support, etc. And let's come to Silverlight for mobile. And this is something where I really want to tell you, well, I would like to spend hours and hours and hours talking about Silverlight for mobile. Let me be brief, so let's see what I can say in 15 minutes. What is Silverlight for mobile? This is the official definition from me. Silverlight for mobile. So it's not different. No, the concept is that it's not different. When we talk about Silverlight for mobile, we are not talking about another Silverlight. It's still the same, exactly the same Silverlight. So you still build this exactly the same Silverlight application. And you will be able to run this application inside a mobile phone. So the mobile phone is going to have the support in the future for Silverlight application. But you don't need to modify the code. Technically, your application built for the desktop is going to run inside your mobile phone. Yes, true, there is some limitation. Okay, in the current version, we didn't, first of all, let me say, we didn't release any Silverlight for mobile bits yet. This is coming in the next future. But in this first version that I'm going to show you today, I'm using Silverlight 1.0, so JavaScript code. The Silverlight application is running inside the browser. So in your Windows Mobile Pocket PC, you will have, for example, Internet Explorer. Today, Silverlight for mobile is supported by, well, supported, is running on Windows Mobile 6 Standard and Professional. And it's supporting almost all the features from the Silverlight version 1, apart from the media stack. For the media stack, we are not shipping the codecs as we do for the desktop. We are still relying on the Windows Media Player given from the operating system. I thought it was more interesting to show you here a demo. So I have a Pocket PC here. This is my Pocket PC running Windows Mobile 6.
6.1.
No, it's 6. No, this is from Samsung, and I don't think there is even a 6.1 ROM for this Pocket PC. So let me open a tool here to show you the content. Well, can you see the content? No. I tried. There is this interesting tool called Pocket Controller Pro, which can do like remote desktop inside my Pocket PC. So if I try connect, it should display here the content of my Pocket PC. So, sure. It's not sure. Okay, and what you're seeing here is my Pocket PC desktop. Okay, from here, let me open Visual Studio. I'm a Visual Studio lover, so every time, doesn't matter what I need to do, I open Visual Studio. This demo, and I have 9 demos, are the demos that I show at Mix in Las Vegas. All built with Silverlight version 1, so you see here, for example, JavaScript. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you prefer to see how to build an application from scratch, or do you prefer to see already existing application? So, who is for the application from scratch? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who is there for the more demos possible? Okay, okay. So I'm gonna skip the Hello World demo. Bye-bye, Hello World. And I'm gonna, okay, if we have time, we can then roll back to the other. Okay, first demo that I want to show you is the sessions. This time I'm gonna open Blend as well. Okay, the context is we were at Mix, and I wanted to create a set of demos to run in the context of Mix. One of the demos that I want to create was like a list of all the sessions available. So what I've done is adding a session page, and okay, let's see. Okay. So I have a page written in XAML. It's just normal XAML with some animation and with some code. Inside this page, I created a list control, which is just empty. And the list control is populating itself with different list items. So this is the template of the list item. And the list control is downloading the data from an XML file, sessions. So this XML file is containing the data to populate the previous demo. Now, if everything is working, and I go back here, I say that Silverlight for mobile is still running inside the Internet Explorer. So the first thing I need to do is open Internet Explorer. And I have IIS on this machine, and the whole application is in this IIS. My machine is called gsar.2. Now, finger crossed. Yes. If something happened, I would not be surprised. This is really an early CTP of Silverlight for mobile. And what I'm going to see here is full screen is my list. So I've just used Blend and Visual Studio. I didn't use any particular stuff there. And I have a list of my sessions. What I can do using my finger, you will not see the finger projected, but I'm using the finger. I can scroll up and down on my list and search, for example, for the session that I want. And if I do this gesture from left to right, I'm going to expand an item. Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Sorry. This is another tool. This tool doesn't come with the framework. So it's just to give you the idea of the gesture. So if instead I make the opposite gesture, I'm going to collapse the items. And again, I can filter through my list. If I click on the bottom, I can filter this, for example, by category. So each color here is the official color for the categories at Mix. And I can view, for example, only some of the sessions. OK, now finger off. Let's go to the next. OK. 9 minutes. Next demo is gesture. Gesture is really an easy demo to show. Basically, I've done a canvas, and I'm controlling the pressure on this canvas. And by controlling the pressure, I can recognize some gesture. So if I click, I will see a point. If I do this gesture, for example, I will recognize that. Or if I make a circle, if I make a circle, and okay, I will recognize a circle. And there are a few options here, just to give you an idea of what you can do. So the meaning of this demo is that you can still rely on normal touch of the bottom or the text box, or you can give gesture capabilities to your application. Next demo is the horoscope. So I'm at Mix. I'm not sure if I want to play or not. So I watch my horoscope first, and I select my sign, for example. And in this demo, you're going to see more animation coming. One information, you see that the animation are not really smooth, and this is because why I'm using this kind of remote desktop on my Pocket PC. What I'm seeing on my smartphone is much more smoother. And again, I can play with this animation going in both the direction. Next demo, slot machine. OK, I want to play, not with real money because I don't have money. I created a slot machine inside the mobile phone. The story here is that, Silverlight for mobile is gonna, we expect a lot of games built with Silverlight for mobile. So this is just one of the games. And this is really an easy slot machine. The trick is that I can change my bet while it's playing. But OK. And 3 Bill Gates win the big prize. Yes! Last demo, and this is just to give you a real overview. Well, this is not official, so don't go around saying, oh, we sing Windows Vista for mobile. It's just a demo, all right? So you can see here Windows Vista for mobile. If I click here, and I select my account, and I can log in. Then I press Start. I open PowerPoint. And from PowerPoint, I press Open my presentation. And I put the presentation in full screen. And this is the presentation that I use at Mix. This application is Is it cool? Is it cool? Yes? No? No, it's not cool. Apart from the fact that it's in Italian. This is really cool, but this is not the way you are supposed to build application because everything is teeny. I was using the pen and it was pretty difficult to touch, to use this application. I've done a session, a full couple of sessions, well, one at Mix, one later, about building Silverlight for mobile applications. So just focusing on the user experience. If you go to my blog, you will see all the demo of these sessions, plus much more information about building real mobile demos. OK, going back to the last slide, and we are in time. I'm going to publish some of the source code of the application that you've seen today on my blog, or I'm going to give you the links to the official source for the demo that I didn't build. If you want to start with Silverlight, the best link is silverlight.net/get-started. You will find a lot of sample tutorials, video, how to. It's really a completed website. If you want to be updating on the mobile, have a look at silverlight.net/learn/mobile SPX. This is where we are pushing all the information about Silverlight for mobile. If you want more information about WPF, windowsclient.net. And finally, you might already know the blog from our Vice President, Scott Goffrey, and I put here the link to the Mono project because I think it's pretty interesting. Thank you for your time. I'm now answering any question from you. If there is any question. Next question. Mobile for Symbian. A couple of days before Mix, we announced an agreement between Microsoft and Nokia to run Silverlight for mobile on some of the Nokia devices, so running with Symbian. This is coming later this year, maybe next year. We don't have any build as for the Windows Mobile as well. So far, we already have an agreement with Nokia. In the future, of course, we hope to support as many devices as we can. Next question. Yes?
Localization in Silverlight, in the new one.
Yes. This is one of the new features. If I show my hidden slide, there is some change about the localization. I can point you to the details. Is there any specific question that you have?
Because the first one was non-existent.
Yeah.
Is it as good as, say, WPF type localization?
Well, the approach of in the beta 2 of Silverlight, there has been done a lot of updates to bring the Silverlight experience as much as near to the WPF one. In terms of the localization, I know that there's been done a lot of work. I honestly don't know too much about it, but I can point you to the right resource. Yes, please.
You showed a slide at the beginning with the merge between desktop and internet or web development.
Yes.
Can you see a situation where you can use Silverlight for all regular sort of WinForms development that we know nowadays?
Silverlight on you're saying Silverlight running on desktop.
Yeah, it's basically to build all your new applications in Silverlight so they can be either in-house or distributed.
Not today. Today, well, you might think that Silverlight is running inside a sandbox, which means that you have all the graphic. Well, you have most of the XAML and Silverlight future, WPF features, but you're still running your application inside a browser, inside a sandbox. So for security purpose, for compatibility with others operating system, we cannot support the same set of API exposed by WPF or on any operating system. So I will say that for some year, we're still going to have desktop application done with WPF and Silverlight application for the web. What will come with probably with the final version of Silverlight 2 will be a better support to share like snippet or resources or styling from a Silverlight application to a WPF application. So you create like a library which contains all the resources for your application, and you can share that library both in a WPF project and in a Silverlight project. I hope this is something that will come in the future, but I still see the separation between the two. Yes, please.
What about 3D support on Silverlight?
Not in version 2.
And in future?
I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Well, we are just there to release the version 2, and you already want to know about the version 3. Oh.
Well, that was going to be my question.
Version 4?
Sorry?
About the version 4?
No, well, it was linked to that vision, which is very good, the video of
Mm-hmm.
the guy with his tablet PC charging it and whatever. You didn't really explain the link between
Well,
how is that going to evolve in sort of future?
the video is a vision of the future in maybe 10 years from today, 10, 15 years. So there isn't a roadmap in place for all the next 10 years. What I can tell you is that we enter in this kind of market with the rich internet application not so far. We are trying to build an infrastructure. We are trying to listen to customer feedbacks, so any feedback is appreciated. We are aware that our competitors already have some of this feature that you are talking about. I'm sure that in the future, Silverlight will be a great platform. Today, we've done a lot of achievement in the time that we had, and we're still working on it. So if you have any feedback, again, if you need 3D or you need other things that are not supported by Silverlight today, just ask them, and I'm sure that the product team will be happy to receive your feedbacks.